Yeah, it started. Please go ahead.
Right. No, what I was saying is, we know that normally when we do all this, it will be in the morning time, and we expect like it was going on well, but this is the very first time we have started in the evening, and I'm very glad that so many of you have taken your time and joined this. So welcome you all again. Um, so one of the main reason when we were thinking about this tech community is it. In fact, I don't know who it was when we just started this session a few minutes back. Someone was asking, do you all work in the same company? How do you know each other? In fact, me and Saranand, we have never seen before we came together for such meetups. This technology initiative and the willingness to learn and share, that is something which has brought us together. And I believe like that is one common thread which brings all of us together as well. So I'm glad we are here now. Unfortunately, this what do you call uh, technical difficulties has stopped me from sharing my screen. In fact, I have opened several AWS screen as well, so that as we navigate through the deck, I wanted to show you some, in certain cases, some of the demo. As I speak, I'm also trying in parallel to see whether I can go ahead and give the set right the permission so that I can still share. I will keep my energy on that. Okay.
Do you have any desk?
No.
Okay. Any desk means then somebody could, me or Sarunan could connect to your any desk. Then it will be as simple as same as this.
Right. See, I believe the problem is in the system preferences, I have to give some setting to share the screen, which probably in the beginning when I was loading the app, I just said deny. And that is the reason it is not allowing me. I don't know how do I go ahead and turn it back.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, it's fine. Go ahead. In case you find it difficult to explain, then we could use the any desk. Any desk is just an exe, so it's nothing, not much difficult. We can set it up maybe in a minute.
Sure, definitely. I'll try that in parallel as well.
Yeah, sure.
So
Go ahead.
coming back to the topic of today, AWS Reinvent, a quick recap. So when we were thinking about we should do this, in fact, at that point in time, we never knew that across the globe in several major cities, whether it is or countries, whether it is Tel Aviv in Israel or in Singapore, and within India also in Delhi and other locations, people have started talking about it, and they have already some of the sessions are over where they are sharing what they have got retrieved from this particular reinvent. And we actually, when we were planning, we never were aware of it, but the real intent behind doing this is we we definitely see that this is one very major event which happens every year annually, uh, wherein a lot of new innovations have been rolled out in a very big bang way. It's not that AWS doesn't roll out new features or incremental innovation for the rest of the year, they do it. But this is one event where you expect a tsunami of changes, which has just happens within a span of 3 weeks. And those changes actually impacts us, people like you and me, in a couple of ways. So if the audience is more like who have prior experience or even an exposure in AWS, this changes makes them to rethink on the way they devise the solution. And when I say that, definitely when I walk through some of the use cases, I will relate it to it, saying that earlier you would have thought in a way, now with this change coming in picture, the entire way of thinking would have been changed, right? And if you are someone who has never been into AWS or perhaps never been into any cloud at all, what really happens is this particular uh, session or the changes which has come in will reshape your idea about cloud altogether. You will no longer just think that, okay, cloud is only for some storage or probably for configuring some machine. Those high level idea will completely get reshaped because those are the type of changes which are getting rolled out. And we also see, sorry, did anyone had a question? Okay. And we also see that nowadays it's not only about being innovative, but also being compatible. As the multi-cloud strategy is coming more and more into picture, how each of these major public clouds, whether it is AWS or Azure or GCP, they are trying to mimic and become standardized so that you get a unified working experience, as well as if you are going to have an application or a set of applications which are going to span over different clouds, right? How do you bring in some amount of standardization? So I definitely see some of the changes which has happened in the reinvent is getting onto that direction. I have captured that as well. And though this COVID had caused us a lot of distress in the past and a lot of things which has happened in unpleasant way, if I have to single out something very positive is this first time since this AWS cloud came into picture, this reinvent happened completely online. So earlier, even till last year, it will be a mega event which will be happening in Vegas, and you have to shell out a lot of money to get into those conferences. And people who are not able to get in, we have to wait for some of the blogs which comes out, some of the media reports, and very slowly they also start putting in videos. And through that, we will try to capture and we will try to assimilate, okay, this is what is the change which is happening. But now it is the real democratization of the knowledge, wherein we just need to stay a little bit late in the night and you can virtually join the session, which was a great thing. I certainly hope even in the post-COVID world, AWS will keep that option open and it will allow everyone to witness and to hear firsthand from those people who are really driving these changes. So that is something about this. And I also want to give a word of caution. This reinvent happened over a period of 3 weeks and 500 plus sessions. On an average, each of the session was roughly around 2 to 2.5 hours. I'm talking about on an average. So in the next 60 or 90 minutes, I cannot definitely bring in all those changes. And that is not the intent to. So what I have done is I have broadly classified those changes which are applicable to a normal developer or a normal solution architect into two categories: ML related changes and non-ML related changes. In today's meetup, I just want to focus purely on the non-ML related changes, because here we talk about storage, we talk about compute, we talk about a simple mobile app, a simple LAN or a VPC modeling, and those type of things. ML, definitely they are trying to catch up with Google, and they have brought in a series of changes compared to 2 years back, but that itself will take a separate session. So we are not going to get into the ML related changes. We are going to just see the non-ML major changes which are directly applicable to people like you and me, who are in some part of the technical spectrum when using the cloud, will be definitely influenced, and probably our decisions will be shaped up by these changes. So that is the context, and that is how this whole PPT has shaped up. Though I hate to have the PPT, I didn't put a lot of text in it. The logic behind it is we will talk, we will interact. Please feel free to voice out your views, and then we will see how each of the changes is going to impact. So that is how I have kept it bare minimum, more of a guiding slide rather than it is completely reading it through it. Saranan, can you navigate to the next screen? Sure, thanks. You are in presentation mode, right?
Yes, Sammy.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. No, see, I'm looking at the screen, right? So I'm just asking you. So the very first change, which what they have done is they have brought in a change called wherein you are allowed to replicate a bucket into multiple destinations at the same time. So this is something, if I have to just say that, okay, this is what they have done, probably it may not sound appealing, but let me take a step back and the screen which you are seeing, right? If you just see when this question was asked, I took it from the Stack Flow. 4 years, 10 months back, this question was being asked and the question was not answered for so many years. And once this reinvent has happened, someone immediately went there and he said, hey, you know what? Now you have a solution and this is what it is. So I thought it is very pertinent. So why don't I bring it out? And this type of problems were already there. So I'll give you an example of what this particular user was going through. And this is one tip of the iceberg. So assume that you are a publishing company. You have lot of data which is coming into your S3 bucket. Now you have your audiences or probably your different so you are operating in different countries, and all of them, they want to also see those particular posts which you are putting in into your bucket. Now the question is, earlier before this change came in, you could go ahead and replicate your bucket into one destination. So say probably you have your bucket in Bombay, and someone you can replicate the content to London, but you have your customers in Sydney, you have in Beijing, you have in Los Angeles. Then the way they normally did it, whenever a new object was getting added, you will write an application wherein it will trigger Lambda, which will identify that, okay, something new has come into the bucket, and it will start taking that object and populating in different buckets, so that all the other users in different destination, they could also view the content. And obviously now it looks like there is some amount of application overhead which you need to incur, because now you need to write an application, maintain an application, and obviously you need to pay for that. Now you have a Lambda coming in, it needs to replicate it, and that means that when you replicate, you need to ensure the security settings, IAM settings, all the 9 yards of your application development comes into picture. So this question was always asked, saying that can't AWS allow to do a replication across multiple buckets? Last year, the year before, they always had this cross-region replication, which was restricted to one destination. Last year, they suddenly came up with an idea of same region replication. So if you have a bucket in London, I'm just giving an example, within London, you can replicate it. Now let me take a pause. Anyone in this group, can you even think why these guys even came up with this weird concept of same region replication? Why they wanted to give you an option? Cross-region replication, I understand. It will also help you in your disaster recovery. So if this region has to go down, your data is still preserved. And in case of business cases where you have your customers in across geographies, your cross-region replication really helps. But 2019 reinvent, they came up with the same region replication, and that was a hit as well. But before I explain to you why, can anyone take a guess what could have been the reason? Even if it is incorrect, don't worry. Go ahead.
Is it like a BCP, Shami?
BCP, I agree, but that should be cross-region, right? So if you are in Chennai region, replicating your bucket in Sydney will be your BCP. But I'm going to come up with the API, which says within Chennai itself you can replicate. And that happened in 2019. And that was the innovation which they rolled out.
Maybe it's like the backup, right? So in any case, HDFS and all, if you see, they have two copies. I think mostly people use it for that replication factor kind of.
But the definition of a region itself is you have 3 copies within that region, right?
If you delete it in one place, that's it, right? When you do a delete, the file is deleted, right?
Yeah, but it will be deleted in all three availability zones as well.
Okay.
So there was some 3 main reasons why they came up with the same region replication. If you want to do some analytics on the logs, so you have buckets and the logs are getting created and you want a consolidated view and you want to write some application to analyze the log, doing a same region replication will actually bring together all the logs into a same bucket. And in certain organizations, they want to retain the production and the test region in sync so that when the development, they have all the test data and all the things available very close to the production. And the third main reason is that European Union came up with that concept. Some of the data are not supposed to go beyond their boundaries. So in that case, the same region replication was very helpful to them. So that is why they brought in the same region replication. And 2019, you could see that you had a capability to replicate your bucket within the region for the reasons which I just mentioned, or it is an or condition, or you can replicate outside to a cross region or a different region altogether, which is more of your disaster recovery and your stability. But what they did now is they combined it. They gave you, instead of or, they gave you an and condition saying that now you go ahead and at the same point in time, you can replicate your bucket in multiple locations. It is possible. So with this change, what really has happened is your necessity to write an application to maintain all your buckets fresh with the data which is getting loaded in a centralized point is removed. So you need not even think about writing an application. It is now all about a rule. In fact, I have my screen open where I have written I have created a bucket and I'm writing a couple of rules to show how it can be replicated. Unfortunately, I couldn't share, but I will at least send across the snapshots. But good point is for the other cases, I have already recorded the snapshots, so it is available in the PPT. The one other change related to the same innovation is if you are going to write more than one rule for the same destination, then they have also brought in a priority saying that which rule takes the highest priority. So when you are configuring a rule now, after this reinvent which has happened, the rule GUI will ask you to give a priority to the rule, and the number which you assign will dictate which rule takes a precedence in case of a conflict. So I will give you an example. You might have created a bucket and you would have written a rule. Whatever is coming into the bucket, you go ahead and replicate it. That is rule number 1. Rule number 2, you would have written, within this bucket, I have a folder. Only those items has to be replicated. I don't want to replicate everything which comes into the bucket because I have to pay for the cost of the redundancy. Now you have two conflicting rules. The rule number 1 says replicate everything. Rule number 2 says don't do that, replicate only items within this particular folder. So in such cases, whichever rule you have given the highest priority, that will take precedence so that it doesn't end up in a conflict. And this change you can very well, when you log into AWS right now, you will be able to see it, you can execute it, which negates the use of an application which was there earlier. So this is one change which personally I believe it's in the right direction. In fact, GCP is little ahead in this lane where they have done something very similar, though not exactly the same, but they have this global replication already available, which AWS, I believe, has taken the concept and is improvised it. Saranand, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. The second slide change again related to S3, which has saved us a lot of effort and has given us a lot of comfort on the data integrity pieces. A strong read after write consistency. I'll explain what it is and what was the situation before and what has happened today. Earlier, as I just said, a region will have minimum of 3 availability zones. So you have say 3 copies, which works fine when you are going to put a new object. All the 3 copies will be in sync with each other, and that happens seamlessly. The change happens when you go ahead and update an object, or when you go ahead and delete an object. For that change to propagate across the availability zone, it takes some amount of time. Though it is in millisecond, but still there is a latency. And within that time, if your application is going to go ahead and read the object which just got modified, you will end up in a case of inconsistent data. So it was normally advised that whenever you do an update or delete, there needs to be some amount of lag which you need to induce in your application before you go ahead and read it up. This works fine when you are making changes occasionally, but if your data is so volatile and volume of data is coming in, as in this case of Dropbox example, in fact, Dropbox CEO, he has put up a video saying that how this particular change has helped him a lot. So they are talking about huge volumes of data. In fact, he said a lot of petabytes of data which was coming in. And to maintain this data integrity, they had a different software called as S3 Guard. This S3 Guard was an external plugin which they used to put in to ensure that the inconsistencies are not creeping into the application and the application doesn't work in a weird way. But the difficulty which they had with all these third-party plugins was these were not scalable to the same magnitude as what the data was coming in. So they had a difficulty, and then they complemented it with their homegrown customized application. So fundamentally, that means that you will buy a third-party plugin, and then you will also write some application to ensure that you don't have this inconsistency, and you need to maintain it, which definitely it is going to be a laborious exercise. And now with this change coming in, you don't need to have those third-party plugin. You can sunset your homegrown custom application. That fundamentally means that higher performance, lower the cost, because now you are not going to pay for all those licensing fee, and definitely decreases your operational overhead as well. So those are few things which came up because of this particular change. Though the change looks very simple, right? You just update and all the 3 buckets are getting synced up without any lag. But if you really see the business use case, there are companies which have been spending a lot in maintaining the integrity. The reason why I brought in this Dropbox stuff is, I will send you the link as well. The CEO clearly explains how the difficulty he had in maintaining the integrity, and why he was even skeptical of putting his application into S3, because the S3 is a data lake. It can take any type of data. It can scale seamlessly. All those are great. But this data integrity piece was something which was really disturbing them. And this one change is going to completely overhaul that entire model. So I will take a pause here before we proceed. Any questions so far? I take that as a no. Saranan, you can move to the next slide. Yeah, the third one, this is again, if you ask me, I felt it's a real good innovation. What they have done is again on the storage space. So far, the logic always had been like, if you want a high performance, you should go for a SSD, and the higher the capacity of the SSD, the number of input output per second, or what is abbreviated as IOPS, that will also go up. So if you provision a higher and higher SSD, the number of IOPS also was going up. That means that the performance was going up. But what was the side effect of it is, you have to provision a higher capacity, just for the sake of getting a higher performance, and you will be paying more. And when you use especially Hadoop and other clusters, right, performance is more important. They don't really need so much of extra provisioning. So for the very first time, AWS has come and uh, broken the chain. It said that, okay, your performance is a different attribute altogether. Your capacity is a different attribute altogether. I'm not going to marry them both. So what they have done is they have introduced a GP3, a EBS SSD volume, where one, they have already decreased the price. It is going to give you a high performance EBS volume, but at a lower cost, 20% lower cost than the current market price. And they have also brought in a change wherein as you go up and up, needing more and more IOPS performance, you need not provision more and more storage. So you will not have waste. You will not have unused storage, which you were mandated to do just because to get a higher IOPS. So they have done this delineation. They have treated performance separately. They have treated storage separately. And this GP3 is already available. So if you are into Hadoop or Cassandra or mostly onto the NoSQL type of processing, if you till yesterday you would have made a decision to provision a GP2. Now GP3 is a new option which has come into picture, which will reduce your cost in two ways. One is already the cost of GP3 is 20% less than GP2, and number two, you will not be requiring so much of space. So even in that way, like I will say in a recursive way, you are going to save the cost. So this is another good innovation which has come into the storage. So storage, we have seen three new changes, which are all three are major. One, they have brought in your multi-region replication or for different, more than one bucket at the same time. Then they have brought in a strong read after write consistency. Now they have brought in a new SSD. They have introduced a new SSD EBS volume, which will help you to improve your performance and reduce your cost. At least the forecast is 20% less. Saranil, can we move to the next one? This global accelerator, I know that many of you who are in this session, they have taken the course on AWS course with me last year. 3-4 months, we took rapidly 6 batches. So in this global accelerator, that was something actually a new feature which just got rolled out a couple of years back. The way they had it was always like it brought in a lot of new things together. So let me give you an introduction about Global Accelerator before I tell you what is a change. The Global Accelerator will give you 2 static IPs so that if you have to publish it in your client location to whitelist it, that IPs will not change. Behind it, you can do whatever changes you want. You can add or remove your server, but your IPs remains the same. It also does your load balancing. It will do your health check, and it will also make use of your AWS proprietary infrastructure to cache your content and to stream it much, much faster. This was something I will say, if you are very familiar with the CDN concept, this was an improvement on top of it. And this feature was already there working. What change they have brought in specifically is they have brought in an option for you to specify during the load balancing which server you want it to route to. Say, for example, if there are 2 servers and a request comes in, earlier the global accelerator will check which server has a lower load and will route it to it, which is pretty right. And it is a perfect way of doing it. But in an application standpoint, that is not always true. So assume that we are all in a in an environment where we are playing a network-oriented game, or we are in a classroom type of session logged in virtually. In that case, it makes sense that we are all directed to the same server so that the actions can be much quicker. But in this pure play load balancing concept, that will not happen. That will it will just check the health of both the servers. If both the servers are healthy, whichever has a load less, it will start routing it there. But I want all my load pertinent to this session to be routed to a particular EC2, irrespective of how much ever load it has. Earlier, you never had an option. So people were they were compelled to come out of global accelerator, and they were choosing some routing algorithms to do it. There are routing algorithms where you can definitely do that. But when you do that, all the advantages which I just said, you getting two static IPs, you making use of your Amazon proprietary infrastructure to expedite and to stream your content much faster, your load balancer stuff, all those things, they don't come in a single bundle. It has to be derived separately. So in this particular reinvent, they already brought in this concept wherein you can specify, hey, for this particular session, all this inputs, all the things, please route it here. So for people who are into edtech and gaming, this is a real blessing. In fact, the screen which you see in the snapshot which you see on your screen is something like I logged in and I took it from my own account. So it is not, so in fact on the top right hand corner you can see my name, because this is not taken from any of the Google pictures, but basically I tried doing this, and this is already available in Azure. So if you are someone from Azure background, they call this as a sticky session. So fundamentally, where you can stick a certain type of inputs to a particular server. So I will say it's a sort of they took that idea and improvised it on this global accelerator. So fundamentally, now you get an option to dictate which way your traffic should go, irrespective of the load on the server. Sarandan, we can move to the next slide.
Shami, actually, this sort of feature is already available in the application load balancer, right? So you can set the sticky sessions, right?
Yes, but when you do an application load balancer, you will not get the two static IPs as well as your CDN network, right?
CDN network, you will, okay, maybe you will have to enable it separately. Earlier also, those you will have to do it separately. Okay, now you say it is coming inbuilt.
Inbuilt, because when you use global accelerator, all those things come along with it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, the public IPs also, we have to set ourselves. Static IPs, we have to request for the EC2s. With all those things, we do manually. And now you say with the global accelerator, they are all bundled together.
Yeah, so on the last point, let me clarify. When you configure your EC2, you will get a public IP. But the global accelerator itself will give you two public IPs which will not change. So tomorrow, if I want to replace an application server with a different EC2, I need not go to the client and say that, hey, yesterday I gave you two IPs, right? Can you remove that and replace this with the new IPs? So you need not keep telling them to whitelist continuously. So assume that you are a vendor and you are having a business with a client and they have opened up a proxy only to your server. In this case, that IP will remain the same. With that IP, whatever EC2s you are mapping behind the screens, you can keep changing it. So if you are upgrading your application or you're bringing in a new logic altogether, that EC2 IP will change. Even if you stop your EC2 and restart it, your IP will change. But this global accelerator IP will be the static one.
Okay.
Yeah, just but we have like elastic IP, right? To use static IP, so that can't be used that elastic IP.
Yeah, see, again, as I said, all these individual features, you can do it, but this comes as a bundle. So when I say your load balancer, definitely your health check with it, and your IPs and your CDN network, all these are bundled together under global accelerator. Don't we have all this individually available? Yeah, elastic IP you have application load balancer, network load balancer, and your classic load balancer. Can to use a CDN, you can use, but CDN doesn't give you your IP. It will give you only a DSN name, right? And all those things have been negated as one common feature through this particular app. And Global Accelerator as such is not something which was rolled out in 2020. It came in a little before that. But the sticky session in Global Accelerator is a new feature which just came in December. I was just talking about 3-4 weeks back.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, sure. Can we proceed? Yeah. This, if you really ask me, it's the reason why I have put reality check is there are 3 reality checks which I have put in. All this, if you are coming from a different cloud, whether it is a GCP or whether it is your Azure, you would have already seen it. And this thing, this features were not available. Now they have understood that. If you remember in the beginning of the session, I said AWS wants to be as standard as other clouds. If you are seeing some feature which is heavily used in a different cloud and which is missing here, they wanted to bring it here. And this Cloudshell is not new. Azure and GCP has it by default. AWS has it, but it was doing it as a standalone CLI tool. In fact, I remember in all the 6 batches which I took, I normally used to spend some time. I will send my participants a Word document saying that how to install CLI in Windows, how to install CLI in Mac, and they will do it as a standalone application, and we will connect it with the cloud from your desktop and do that. So it's not like AWS was deprived of this feature, but now you need not do it separately. Once you log into the cloud, you will see an icon. When you click on it, you have already logged in and you can write your command line utilities. And it comes with a 1 GB of space so that if you need to save some of your bash file or anything within your home directory, you can definitely do it. It is a persistent storage only within the home. Other than that, everything is ephemeral. So fundamentally, when you come out of the session, it will log out. It will get erased. So this feature shouldn't be a surprise for people who come from a non-AWS background, but someone who is coming first into the cloud. This feature is nothing but it's a new feature wherein if you are someone who wants to write commands and who feel comfortable about it, you need not do it as a separate application apart from your cloud. Your cloud login itself will give you that browser, and wherein you can execute your commands. All the IAM, everything is it is the same rules applicable as what you can see in your browser. And as I said, it comes with your 1 GB stuff. And using this console doesn't charge you anything, but whatever resources you are impacting through it will be charged. So if you are going to create an S3 bucket, you will be charged for that S3 bucket. But for just using this console to create an S3 bucket will not be charged. It is free of cost. They have classified this feature under developer productivity tools, and which I fairly agree. And this is a good change, and that means that now we need not have that separate CLI and all those stuff. I believe that will become obsolete. You can very well log in to do it. And if you are more onto the infrastructure admin side, or if you are someone who is very, very comfortable doing in a much faster way than the GUI way, this is your option. Can we move to the next slide, Ronan?
Question regarding, hello?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, in GCP Cloud Console, we have predefined packages already installed. Let's say example, G-Cloud CLI, JDK, and NPM. All the package is installed in Cloud Console, G-Cloud Cloudshell. Okay, but what about and GCP Cloudshell? 5 GB storage is free. But what about the AWS Cloudshell? All the package is predefined package is installed, common package is installed in AWS Cloudshell.
Good question. In fact, as the time of this rollout, they have just supported a Python and Node.js runtime,
Okay.
and it is a Linux shell. But they have given a commitment that as we progress into this year, you will see more and more runtime coming in. But today, if you log in and do, you will have Python and Node.js runtime alone. You don't have a lot of things, and it is not 5 GB here. It is just 1 GB. But I definitely believe, since they are doing a catch-up game on this particular feature, right, pretty soon they will cover it up. And their documentation clearly says they have even listed out more than 5 or 7 environments saying that that is work in progress, beta version will soon be rolled out across the globe. But today it is not there.
Yeah, and another one is in GCP Cloudshell. We have to view my storing the code. I have to edit the code and all. Is the option UI option for editing my code in GCP Cloudshell. There is anything in AWS Cloudshell?
I didn't see anything similar to it. But again, I can check on it. But as long as I went through the documentation and I tried myself, I didn't see something very similar to that.
Okay.
Again, as I said, right, 3 weeks new feature. Probably in 6 months down the line, if you have to do a recap, by that time it would have really improved.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Swami.
Kafka is a trigger to Lambda. This is again a reality check 2. The reason why I say that it's a reality check is I have a podcast. I don't know. Many of you are already part of our meetup groups where I have given the link. What I've seen is whenever you build your application using your SQS, your simple queuing services, there were some security loopholes in the back, and that podcast extensively talks about what was the loophole, how did they catch it, how did they fix it, and all those stuff. But AWS was like more or less leaning towards you using their own queue services. But now I believe as many people have started using Kafka, and Kafka is the leader in the queuing service or one of the leaders, now they have also rolled out the triggering feature of Lambda and other things through Kafka. So today, if you have an application which makes use of Kafka queues, you can integrate it with the AWS Lambda, where as a message arrives, you can go ahead and trigger a Lambda that is already part of your triggering configuration. The screen which you see there, again, I took it from my own console where I could verify that. Initially, it was not there. So you can install a EC2 in your application, install your Kafka, and do all the things that you have been doing today. Or if you already have an application which was built on Kafka, you are no more constrained to change that into your AWS queues or supporting queues only. You can very much port it into the cloud and do that. Why I called it as a reality check is predominantly wherever I have seen enterprises or even entrepreneurs who are building out the application, they talk about Kafka. SQS is so. I'm not declining it, but Kafka had been predominantly used. Now those people will not have to undergo a decision-making effort saying that should I not get into AWS because of this reason, or should I go ahead and make a change? Those type of handshake discussions are no longer required. Can we move on to the next slide? This is a real good feature, but before I even say this feature to you, this is not yet completely rolled out. It is in beta version, but they have assured saying that eventually you will get to see it in this year. And first let me explain this. See, when Netflix started using AWS, they came up with this concept of stress testing, or what you normally call as monkey testing, where arbitrarily, similar to a monkey which keeps jumping without any particular structure, they will unplug some of the servers, they will unplug some of the services, and just ensure how does that impact your end user experience. And they were building a resilient system wherein anything happens to the infrastructure, the impact will be very, very minimal to the end user. And technically that is called as chaos engineering. Chaos engineering slowly was becoming more and more popular. In fact, I remember 6 months back, I wrote a blog on that, talking about how this QA will get redefined along with your infrastructure team in ensuring that you do some level of chaos engineering in your application. Because as you move to the cloud, that is becoming very, very important. Now the AWS has understood the importance of it. So what they have done is they have come up with a service called as fault injection simulator, which basically is nothing but will go ahead and do the similar stress testing and what do you call that, monkey testing on your application, and will give you the report about it, saying that, hey, this is where it is, this is how you can do it. And in fact, I was going through a video on their beta version where they are even giving you a template saying that, okay, what type of stress test you want me to do. But definitely you don't want to do it in production. So in a test environment, what are your critical servers, what are your normal servers? So it takes in the load as in a form of a template, does a quick level of check and gives you a clear-cut report, and also gives you a remediation mechanism saying that, hey, you can think about this option in order to make your system more and more resilient. Unfortunately, if today you log into AWS and search for it, you will not get it, because this is, though they have officially declared it in the reinvent and they have put in beta version videos where they completely walk you through on that. It is expected to be released in the first quarter, the end of the first quarter in North Virginia region, and going forward it will be available in multiple regions as well. It's going to be an excellent feature, and that is going to make QA more and more relevant than in the past, in including such new scenarios. It was not already available, it was optional, but now I believe we will head in a direction where, similar to what you do, your system testing, integration testing, and all those things, right? This will become your kiosk engineering will become a part of your QA strategy. That is my take on it. Hopefully it will happen. Any questions on this? Okay, we'll move to the next slide. Cost anomaly detection. This is already there. This particular screen which I took is again from my own console. So AWS, actually, in terms of cost management, I will say it was little ahead compared to your Azure and GCP. Azure, in fact, they have one tool which can even give you a prediction about what will be your cost in different clouds if you are having a synergized application. I believe it is Cloudin. That is the tool which they acquired. AWS was little better. It already allowed you to set an alarm saying that if a cost exceeds the threshold, you will get a notification. It already had a forecaster which, based on your previous consumption, it will tell you what might be your bill in the coming months. So in terms of cost, I believe they were doing a decent job. Now they have brought in a AI ML service also to it. So what does it really mean is, if you are someone who already know S3, right? S3, you would see that in order to reduce your cost, you have different tiers. And if you don't know which tier to select because there are too many choices in front of you, last year they rolled out something called as intelligent tiering, wherein you just put your data in a bucket and enable that intelligent tiering by checking your data storage pattern and data access pattern. It itself will migrate it at the end of 30 days to the right most appropriate tier, which will help you to save the cost. Similar to it, wherein it understands your pattern, this cost anomaly detection is a feature which they have brought in. Once which you enable it, it will start observing your trends, how you use resources, during which days or during which weeks it is picking up. For example, if you are going to put up a sale every weekend, that means that every weekend your resources cost will go up because there will be additional servers which will be spinned up. And it will also understand your network usage, data ingestion, data moving out, all those patterns it will observe, and it will have its own idea that this is what your cost will take. But if it sees any pattern which is little abnormal to it, now it will go ahead and tell you that something abnormal is happening. Do you want to have a look at it? And this feature they have granularized to a level of an account or tags or to a category. So what I mean by that is, if I'm an enterprise, I have several departments all logged into my account, single account. And probably I can say that I will enable this feature for every department. So if some unusual events are happening in a department level, it will catch up the anomaly. Or I can even put up a tag level saying that production resources, development resources, test resources. So if there is a development project going on where they are consuming too much of resources because of some bad coding or infinite loops, and they have left the job to execute, and the cost is spiraling up, this anomaly detection will be able to catch it. And even if you are going to put it at category level, saying that, okay, I have some resources, say EC2s or Amazon Kinesis, which are all like high consumption resources. I want to know if there is something unusual happening there, it will be able to tell you. So that much of granularity they have brought in. So this is ML, AI ML based feature, which will understand your current pattern. It might take 3 to 4 weeks basically. And going forward from there, anything going unusual, even before it hits you, even before that actually happens, it will give you a SMS notification, a simple notification service through your email or your webhooks or your what you call SMS or anything which you can integrate with your SNS. You will be notified that better you come and take a look. It really helps. Saranan, can we move to the next slide? Mac OS to the cloud. This is awesome thing because I have not seen your Mac OS on any other machines or any other cloud for that matter. Always it was like untouchable. It was kept outside because Apple was so conservative. It was not willing. First time these guys have got into an agreement and they've brought in. So the screen which you see again is taken from my console, where I've seen that now when you are configuring EC2, you will be able to see machines with Mac OS also. Obviously, it is not in free tier. I would have loved to have that in free tier. What is advantage here is now most people who want to develop iOS apps, they were very constrained to use it only in their own Mac. So if you don't have Mac, you cannot develop your iOS or iPad apps or iPhone apps. Now with this feature coming into picture, even without owning a Mac, you will have the ability to go ahead and create a lot of apps on Apple. And that is something which is important because what was restricted to an elite crowd now will be open to everyone. And this is also going to open up in a lot of hybrid fashion, because when I was reading through how this MOU is going to help, they have a much better or a depth understanding on utilizing it in the visualization and other things, wherein Mac is supposed to be performing much better in terms of music industry or in terms of your graphs and all that visuals. So I believe this is just the beginning. What we are seeing, it is going to, this collaboration is going to expand. But as of now, for app developers, they need not spend lakhs to buy your Mac machine. They can very well log into AWS and start spinning up a machine, develop an app, and do whatever is necessary. So it's a great thing. I definitely believe it. We will see that happening in other clouds as well. If Apple has got into an agreement with AWS, I don't see why not with Azure and GCP as well. But as I said, this is just the beginning. Can we move on, Saranan? Yeah, this is something which was taken from GCP. So what is this? Let me explain. So if you are someone who are using Kubernetes, who have an application developed on Kubernetes, the way it works is, I'll just give you an introduction, then I will explain this feature. You will allocate 1 or 2 machines, which technically you call as nodes. And within that node, they will go ahead and divide it into pod, and your application image will be running on pods. But if you need more and more pods, and the application is running out of the processor and memory, they will go ahead and take in more machines. So they will add more nodes to it. So initially I start with 3 machines, but as I scale up, I may need more. Probably I have a one-time sale, or I have a one-time reservation. So fundamentally during that time, I may need more and more machines. So far, AWS have not allowed spot instances, which is like, yeah, if I have to use this word, gambling, right? You you go ahead and you quote a price. If a machine is available, you get it. If that price is not something which AWS can grant you a machine at that time, they will not give you. And similarly, when the demand goes up, they can even take it up. So basically, that machine is not completely allocated to you. It's like more like demand supply basis. So AWS was not allowing usage of spot instances into Kubernetes, but GCP, which is the, I will say, if I have to use the word, they were the forefathers of Kubernetes. That is where Kubernetes really was grown and it was implemented before it became an open source, right? They allowed this. They allowed something called as preemptive machines right from day one. They were doing it. In fact, it helped you because it was bringing down the cost. So as you were scaling up, and there was a temporary spike, why you should go ahead and pay more cost to buy a on-demand machine. But why don't you make use of some of this demand-supply equation? I don't know, for some strange reason AWS was preventing it, but with this reinvent, they have taken the Google approach. Whatever Google is doing, they have just blindly copied it, saying that, okay, I will allow this also to happen. So if you are into DevOps, if you are into someone who is into cubes, I believe now you can save some good amount of cost during your spike period by converting your on-demand instances into spot, which will be more beneficial than what you are doing today. So it translates directly into cost saving at the end of your month.
Yeah, Swami. Actually, the thing is, a spot instance and GCP redemption only used for lab purpose, not for production issues. Is it correct, Swami?
Yeah, see, production, if you're going to make use of spot, that means that you are running a risk.
Yeah. In preemptive in GCP also, if you are doing this, cost saving for your personal account, that's why we go for preemptive. And in Amazon EKS, we go for spot instance. So we will reduce the cost.
See, basically,
but it's not advisable for production, correct?
Right. See, the way I look at it is there are three categories of people, right? One is people like you and me who are learning at home. That is one category. The other category which I see is if you are someone who is into, say, an entrepreneur type of thing, who wants to keep your cost less, but you have different staging environments. And even in enterprise, where you want to try out few things like create artificial spike to see how your application responds, end of the day, you still will incur the cost. Now with these decisions, those costs can go down and your experimentation mode will go high. You now will not, because every project will come with a price tag, right?
Yeah.
It will be said that, okay, this is your budget, you do whatever you want within this. Now such options.
The thing is, Swami, the spot instance means if you someone is bidding means more higher than me, means my instance is gone, my application also gone, correct?
No, true. See, that is the reason I said I will not recommend it to production.
Yeah.
But now with this options, various stages of testing, or even if you are trying something new, wherein loss of one or two instances, your logic doesn't really get affected. There will be an asynchronous transfer. You can try it out. It depends on your application side. They give you an option more. They have widened your imagination.
Okay.
I have some inputs. Could I also tell?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, the previous question, right? So about using the spot instances, we have been using spot instances in production also. So the way is like the reliability of the service is lost, as you all know, right?
No. The thing is, Muthu, the spot instance only used for batching purpose. Let's say example, my batch is only for 1 hour per day. I use 1 hour means that time I will go for spot instance, not for my permanent application, correct? Production application, I am not using the spot instance. When will you use the spot instance means every day I have to one time I need to run the batch my production. In this scenario, I go for spot instance. I used to for 1 hour. After that, I don't want to the instance.
Actually, it depends on the use case. Say, for example, we are having an EMR cluster. So EMR cluster, as you know, the task nodes, right? The task nodes can be on the spot instances. So when we are using the EMR for the exploratory data analytics,
Yes.
so therein, as you know, we have a minimum service guarantee. So
Yes.
we keep half of them to be on the on demand. So
Yes.
half of them, or maybe the 75% of them on the spot, so that
Yes.
the service itself is not lost. And but as such, maybe it is slower.
Yes.
That's all.
So
So
based on this situation, we will use for spot instance.
yeah, yeah. So it depends on the use case.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I perfectly agree. And the use case which you just said, Muthu, is a classic one. That is, in most of my experiences, I have seen that is where they make use of spot instances, because even if the spot instance is lost, right, that workload can be reassigned and can be redone, and you are not losing all of it, because as you said, in your case, you have 50% in on-demand, which is a guaranteed success.
Yes, right.
Right. Arunam, can we move to the next slide? Right. Again, a very different change. I believe this is opening up some newer avenues, and certainly to comprehend this more and to do a session on this, that itself will take more than 2 hours. So what they are doing now is they are initially we have seen we can write Lambda, we can start executing it, and it was all working fine. But now they have come up with their container image support, where you can write series of Lambda and bundle it together as one application. Size of the application can be as large as 10 GB, and use that as single container to upload and then connect it with your APIs and do whatever you are doing it with a single Lambda instance. So before December, when I was taking session, when I go to the Lambda console, you will see that the first two and the last option was always there. You can develop it from scratch, or a blueprint where you can go ahead and use a template, or a serverless app, which is basically some user-defined templates wherein you can still do some modification and do it. This the option which I have highlighted in the screen, that is something which just came in 2-3 weeks back. So now you can write a microservices based application, or in specific AWS term, your AWS Lambda applications, and upload it as a container and do it. As I said, this the gravity of this decision, how it will play out, is yet to be determined. But I can definitely tell you that this is going to be a different path altogether, because already serverless is a very powerful concept, and now you are having container, which is another equally powerful concept. You are now marrying it both and saying that let's do it. So I'm pretty interested on the possibility of the application world opening up to this. Yet to explore more, but a space which we need to watch out for is, so someone, if you are someone who is looking out to stay relevant in the market by learning new things, normally I've seen people going to the AI/ML world, but of late we have come to know that not very many times you get to develop a model all on your own. There are so many other restrictions around it, but containers and serverless is a very promising career avenue, and this path is going to even expand it much further. So having said that, I want to definitely do a separate session on this, wherein we write an application, then we go ahead and compress it as an image, register it in a, and take that as a container and do a lot of things. But we will reserve it for some other day. But to the point which I want to leave here is, watch out this space, it's going to be big. Saran, can we move to the next slide?
Swami, I have one quick question, Swami.
Yeah. Go
In
ahead.
AWS, we have the ECS container. In
Mm.
ECS container, we use the EC2 instance as well as a forget, correct? The
Correct.
forget is a serverless.
Serverless.
Yeah,
Correct.
we don't have the any EC2 instance. So in cloud function, Lambda function, using this container image, also the serverless. Okay, what is the difference between ECS forget and Lambda function using this container image?
Yeah.
There is any benefit is there?
Yeah, it is there. See, in Fargate, it is serverless, but serverless in terms you need not provision nodes.
Yes.
The nodes will be provisioned as its case. So it will still spin off EC2s, but you need not upfront provision it. But
Okay.
here I'm talking about not an EC2 at all. It is Lambda.
Okay.
Lambda, which is purely serverless within containers.
The
Okay, so
same thing is a forget, correct? The forget, I am not selecting the any EC2 instance. Directly, I have to deploy the container in forget. Without EC2 instance, automatically my instance running in forget, correct?
if I'm not wrong, Fargate still provisions EC2, but you need not worry about providing the upfront template. Fargate will do it on its own.
Yeah.
Okay, but in the other form of your what is that? The container service in AWS, you need to go ahead and specify how many nodes you need, and if it is going to run out, you have either some other options to do with this. In Fargate, it is purely serverless. Can I put it in the other way around, saying that okay, now you are going to write hundreds of Lambda, put a container around it and say that this is one piece of application which will both scale up and scale out.
Okay.
Anand, can we move to the next slide? This is a great thing. In fact, if there are any mobile developers who are here listening to this, you will love this because what they have done, in fact, AWS Amplify is not a new service, but what they have done now is really great. In fact, I'll tell you a use case before I explain this. So the use case which what AWS itself gave is, assume that there is a restaurant and they want to go ahead and change the menu every day. Obviously, every day there will be a new menu and they want to put it in their website or a mobile app, right? And you as a developer or someone who can help them with their website and mobile app, they are asking you saying that, can you help me out? Now the challenge is there are ways to do this. The first way of doing it is very traditional way. You spin up a server, install a content management service. There are too many applications available there. And then you say that, okay, this is your site, this is your app, and the restaurant owner may not be a techie. So you have to give him a choice saying that every day you log in here, here you enter what is the item for today, that menu, whatever menu you are putting in. Fine. But the problem with this option is just for one restaurant, now you have to buy a license of a CMS, you have to provision one server, all because you have to just maintain his site or his mobile app, which basically it is a over provisioning. Okay, what is the other way of doing it? Other way of doing it is you write an application or develop something very similar to your own CMS and do it so that you can keep its cost less and put it in the cloud so that the server cost is also eliminated. Great option, but in that case you need to have the person who knows CMS as who understands the Magento and all the other CMS options, as well as they have to know the cloud. Only then they can do this. Both are difficult. One, you're over provisioning, you have to spend more. The other case, you have to find the right talent, which is very difficult to find. One who knows CMS as well as the cloud. So what they came up is CMS as a service. What they are saying is, very first time, you have to still log into AWS, create an account, get into this particular service. After that, you can give the control to a developer who need not know anything about the cloud. He need not know anything about AWS or anything. There will be CMS as a service where he drags and drops, creates the mobile app, creates that simple form for the restaurant owner to feed in directly, and then he just say deploy. When he clicks deploy, at the back end, everything will be taken care for him without you needing to know anything about the cloud. So you can develop your front end, you can develop your back end, need not worry about cloud as a skill. You can develop mobile apps in a on a go-to fashion. So fundamentally, they are making a CMS as a service without the need of knowing the cloud knowledge or even having an experience. The only catch is the very first time. First time, if say assume that I want to utilize your service in developing an app, I have to log into AWS. I have to invoke this app. Sorry, I have to invoke this service, and then there will be a URL generator where I can say give complete access or give developer access and give it to you. From there, you will do as if it is a CMS which is installed on your laptop. You will get it done. Then I can stage it. In fact, there is a beautiful or an extensive document which they have published on the same use case which I just said, wherein they have walked us through page by page, saying that select this, select this, select this, and do it. Fundamentally, this is an initiative where they are trying to attract more and more mobile developers who are now more into Azure, into AWS, and giving them that facility, saying that don't worry about infrastructure, don't worry about anything else, I will handle it for you, but you can keep doing it here. A great thing which has just come in the December. Can we move to the next slide, Saravana? VPC Reachability Analyzer. If you ask me, it is a blind copy paste from Azure Connection Monitor, but good that they have done it. So what they have done here is you have a lot of VPCs which you create, and then you want one VPC to talk to the other one, or you want within a VPC to reach out to certain endpoints. But for some reason that is not happening. The troubleshooting effort is going to be immense and incredible. So what they have done is they have come up with a GUI option wherein you specify from point A to point B, I want to go. Can this be possible? It will do a dummy check and will say, yes, it is possible. If it is not, it will give you the reason saying that, hey, you know what, this particular VPC has this particular security groups, and this particular subnet has this type of routing rules, and your VPC is in a very in opposite way, so you cannot even talk to each other. So basically, it will make your troubleshooting much easier, and it will give you more clarity on how do you make your peering, VPC peering or your LAN peering much more easier. As I said, this is more extensively available than what I mentioned here in Azure. Azure has very clear-cut guidelines about if a packet is not going in, what type of troubles are there, which port is not allowing, which protocol is not allowing, which security rule is preventing. It has, I will say, it is more deeper than this, but at least now AWS has taken this step wherein they are going to make your life little bit simpler in abstracting this networking components, because this is one area which I have seen in my experience. Whenever I take session, VPC is not something which delights everyone, because end of the day we have never done this networking a lot after our college days. So fundamentally, people struggle here. So maybe enabling more and more GUI oriented or console oriented stuff, it will make our life easier. But this is more for your infra team folks. But if you are into small businesses or you are learning something, I believe this is going to help you to troubleshoot much easier. Can we move on to the next slide? AWS System Manager, very good service. In fact, what it means is fleet manager. In fact, if you have multiple machines which you have configured, Linux machine, Windows machine, and now even Mac OS, now you want to see the health of the machines. You want to go ahead and see a unified dashboard, how they are performing. You can easily do it. You have to, if it is a Windows machine, you will RDP. If it is a Linux-based machine, you will do a SSH and do things. You will get some of the logs. You'll go to the console individually and see the performance metrics like CPU, memory usage, all the stuff. What they have done is they have integrated everything into one single console where you don't need to do RDP, where you don't need to do SSH. You list down all your machines, You will be able to see individually as well as an aggregate how they are performing, and you will be able to take action based on any abnormalities which you see. So fundamentally, it is more like one big dashboard, a dashboard to observe all your machine in one single console. Again, more towards the infra folks, but they are abstracting the level of work which we have to do individually. In my opinion, this is more of a productivity enabler. So if you have more and more fleets of servers which you have configured, this is going to help you to make decisions much quicker, because it will show you on an aggregate, it will show you at a granular level also. This feature is already enabled. If you want, you can log in even today and you can see that. Last slide, I believe, Saran, the next one. This one particularly I liked it because normally when you talk in any organization or in your team, it has been always imperative which we say that, hey, we should bring in all the best practices, we should have lessons learned. We keep talking about it, but how do we really institutionalize the process? Most of the time we fail. There might be some good practices which will be there available, but either it will be with in the person's head, or he has to really bring it out and say, during this type of stuff, I have experienced a problem. Why don't you be aware of it? If that person is not there in the meeting, or if he's a very introvert who is not willing to express in an open forum, that lesson is gone. So in that way, even though this is not something on coding or anything, what AWS has done is they long back they came up with a architectured framework. I believe my spelling is wrong here, wherein they said these are my best practices. This is what you need to follow, because what we are working with different customers, we have learned it over a period of time. And what they have done in this reinvent is they have made it actionable through something called a SaaS lens. So if you are an entrepreneur, or if you are someone who is building a software, and you might have an idea about the software, you might be building it, which is perfectly fine, but you may not know what are the roadblocks you might be hitting in the future, or what are the vulnerabilities you need to be aware of. So what these guys have done is to drive that critical thinking in us. They have come up with a concept called SaaS lens, which is software as a service lens, wherein they will ask you a series of questions, and you can answer whether you have taken care of it, or you don't know, or you need to get back. And based on your responses, they will form a scorecard, and then they will give you a score, and they will also guide you saying that this area, if you have not done this, or you have done it in the other way around, this is my best practice. This is how you can do it better. Or if you ignore this particular point, this is where you will land up. So fundamentally, all those learnings, they have made it in a form of a tracker. And by you using the tracker and answering the tracker, it takes you through a journey. It's not just like you answer the tracker and you're done, you get a score, but it takes you and categorizes the risk by not doing this, or by doing this in a different way. This is what we have seen in the past. Various SaaS providers have got into trouble, and this is how you can mitigate the risk. So fundamentally, it gets integrated as part of your software development. So now this best practices are no longer just in someone's head, or in some email notes which is floating around, but that framework has become more and more adoptable, and more objective based, so that it will be helpful to you. So even though this is not purely translated as anything else, but I believe this, the way they have thought and they have put in effort, really deserves a lot of appreciation. So that is the reason I have highlighted this as one of the important innovation which they have rolled in their reinvent. So these are the 15 items on the non-ML related things we have gotten. ML related, definitely they have done a lot. They have brought in test triangular. They have even identified the anomalies in the test data. As I said, if we start talking about it, that is going to be a different session. And the one thing which I definitely wanted to show, in fact, even before beginning the session, I had all my jobs run on the AWS to show you the debugger stuff. But I believe it needs to wait. We can do it some other day. Even we are just, what, 15, 20 minutes less than the time allotted, and I don't think we can complete it there. So I will open the uh, floor for questions. If you have any questions on any of these 15 items, or if you want to share something which I have not listed and you consider it is very pertinent, feel free. Go ahead and please share. It is more of a giving and taking, right? Learning and growing through sharing. The floor is open. Feel free to share your thoughts.
Any questions?
We do have a meetup group wherein we keep exchanging notes. If you are interested, you can approach me or Saravanan, who is the host of this particular session. We'll be glad to take you in. Last 6 months, we have been predominantly focused on putting job posts there because we thought it was more relevant in the
WhatsApp group.
Yeah, but basically the idea behind the group was more to exchange our technical notes. And normally all this, whatever sessions we do, we get to publish there first, and then we come to the social media as well. So feel free to join us, and any questions you have, you can share. And if I'm not wrong, Saravanan is also recording this. At some point in time, he will make available in the web page and the YouTube channel which he has. So thank you, and over to you, Saravanan.
Okay, so before I conclude, any question anyone want to talk?
Hi Shami, this is Hari.
Yes, Hari.
Hi, Hari.
How are you doing?
Yeah, we are good. Thanks, Hari. I hope
you.
everything is
Yeah.
fine with you.
Yeah, thanks for the session. So your session was awesome today, but we would like to see some kind of demo session actually. So for each point we are shared, right? So we would like to see the demo kind of sessions going forward. Hope you
This
will be
one
helping us to.
Hari,
Yeah.
you joined in the middle, right?
Oh, sorry.
We had a technical problem. Shami was not able to share the screen, so that's why I shared the screen and gone through the PPT.
Okay, sorry about that.
No,
I
that's
was
fine.
not aware.
Yeah. In fact, Hari, to save the time, even 4:30 itself, I started some AWS jobs, and I keep all the. I still I have all the screens open, so that I could show you that X-ray and all the troubleshooting of Lambda. Took a lot of effort also behind that, but I know it couldn't be done. We will either have a part 2 session of it, where either I can take you exclusively on Lambda, building it, troubleshooting it, and other things, or I'll at least try to send you those screenshots. Your point is valid. We even tried it, but unfortunately, it is my issue today. Saravanan also helped me a lot, but sorry, I couldn't do that.
No problem. So I joined in between, so I was not aware of that challenge. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so finally we come to the end. So thank you so much, Sami, for the awesome session and sharing the new features with AWS. I think over actually participated in today's meetup. Definitely, it will be useful for them. So, I appreciate the participants as well for joining with us today. So we'll definitely will have one more session and go through the hands-on things on the topics, the new features we discussed today. And we also have few. Initially, we planned three topics in the agenda, but we couldn't actually cover. Maybe we can also plan it as a part of next meetup.
Sure, sure. We will definitely plan. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Shami. Yeah, the session was informative as well for me. So some of these sessions I attended Reinvent, but as you know, there are a lot of tracks. I didn't have time to catch up all of the sessions. So from here and there, I think it's good that you are able to pick up the interesting things.
Sure, thanks, Muthu. And in fact, whatever you shared on that spot and the EMR stuff, right? It was a good one. It was a very good use case. Probably, if, in the same slide, I will try to integrate it. So in some future references, right, we can bring it out. It was a very good use case which you brought out. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. How are these topics decided for what do you say, a session or something? So is there any voting people do it and you do all those?
Muthu, I'll reach out to you separately.
Okay, sure. Okay.
So fundamentally, that means we can expect a session from Muthu.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I'll reach out to you, Muthu, separately.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, fine. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot and have a great day.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
Have a
weekend.
nice weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Let's see in the next meetup.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shami.
Thank you, Shami.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sami.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Saravanan.
Bye bye.